college football weekend ahead, and I cannot wait to talk about it with my man, Cam Broham. It's another episode of Rogers Rulez, and we will be talking about your Huskers, along with the college football slate that we're about to experience this weekend. College football is back, Cam. You got to be excited. I mean,
I know. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Yeah, we're up there. We're up there on the at least the preseason prediction list. That's good.
Yeah, let's quit you. Who's Iowa playing in their first game?
I don't know, man.
Well, there you go.
I live in Nebraska.
It's not much of an Iowa fan, Cam.
It's the most difficult thing to get any Iowa news. I know there's the internet, but you know what I mean. I'm just inundated with Husker stuff all day long.
I hear excuses flowing, and I hope I don't hear a lot of that from Husker fans this year. Iowa is facing Illinois State to open the season. I know, a whopper. And it wouldn't shock me if that final score is 14-3.
It's awful.
Always take the under. Always take the under when you're dealing with Iowa football. But there's some big games to open the year. USC LSU, that is happening Sunday, which is kind of weird to think about college football on a Sunday, but you can get away with that when the NFL doesn't begin until the following week. You have Penn State opening season play, Clemson, Georgia, another big game. That's a 1-14. And of course, you have the Nebraska Cornhuskers. That's right, baby. Your Cornhuskers taking on Utep to open the season. And it's make or break, right? Game one of the year is make or break for the Huskers. You have to win that game, or else all excitement, all optimism is out the door if you lose to UTEP in game one. But more importantly, we're all excited to see Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, you don't want to kick the wind out of the room right away, you know.
Well, especially me and the prediction of them starting off the year 7-0, being ranked in the top 10 at some point. Nebraska, I will end up putting in my college football playoff. It's inevitable. It is inevitable. They will be my 11 seed in the college football playoff. Michigan doesn't deserve that spot. No other Big Ten team deserves that spot. It's going to be a Big Ten heavy college football playoff, and the surprise of a lifetime will be at plus 950, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So, without further ado, let's get into this, because earlier in the week, and should I say earlier in the week because I can go back a full week, Dylan Raiola named the starter of Nebraska football. As I said on Tuesday, the worst kept secret imaginable.
Well, it was all speculation. I mean, it was speculation. Everybody hard speculated it. It was definitely like almost a given, you know.
I know you got to win camp, right? I know you have to win camp. But if you're going to come out and say that Heinrich Haarberg is the starter after bringing in a guy with the capabilities and the caliber of Dylan Raiola, all I have to say is, I mean, what is a fan supposed to think? What is a player supposed to think? What is college football across the country supposed to think if you're not going to name Dylan Raiola the starting quarterback in that moment? I mean, a huge reassessment needs to be done, right? After what you saw last season, opposed to if you would have just outright named Dylan Raiola as the starter. And I'm pro Matt Rule method. I'm pro the method of you have to win the spot. You have to earn that spot. But that spot was earned after commitment day. It was earned for making the commitment to come to Nebraska. We saw it on display in the spring. I would have been cool if you wanted to wait till after that. I would have been cool with it. But it didn't need the exposure that it got last week. Dylan Raiola was the starter in everybody's mind. And if he wasn't, there was a problem.
Well, you know, the
problem
news
internally.
Yeah, you just had to confirm it. Everybody knew it was going to happen, but once the news finally is official, once it's official.
Confirmation needed. We were on this train. I said this back in March. Stop pretending. Let's stop pretending it's going to be somebody else.
So they could have just waited till game day and not said anything, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we know." When they take the field, here they are.
Let me take a drink of water. Let me drink everybody's tears that waited until now to agree. Mm-hmm. Dylan Raiola, the starting quarterback at Nebraska, the worst kept secret. I can't wait, though. I can't wait to see him in action. I really can't. That dude is an absolute beast. We saw it on display in the spring game. We've seen it on, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy they continued like the inside look of Nebraska football as we got into fall camp. I'm so happy that they continued with that because it's just another documentary for me to get excited about. But it gets me really antsy about football season as I sit in the chair today and have to wait 2 more days to get college football in my blood. Ooh, my wife's going to hate me. She's going to hate me because Saturdays and Sundays are going to be preoccupied for the next 4 months.
Yeah, at least.
Maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have her sign a contract. Like, this is what you signed up for.
Yeah, you just get weekdays.
Every weekday except for visits. Thursdays because of Thursday night football and Mondays. Right. So you get Tuesdays, but matching happens on Tuesdays, so maybe not. Football happens almost every day of the week. She can have Wednesdays.
Wednesdays.
Hump day. College football is upon us, and there's just a lot to get excited about if you're a Nebraska fan. One, because I'm overly optimistic about how the season is going to start off. You have a Colorado night game to be the second week of the season. That's happening not this Saturday, next Saturday. So that would be right. Next Saturday. And that's the another home game. I mean, can you imagine Memorial Stadium right now under the lights against Colorado? It is going to be madness. And
Lincoln is going to be.
I wish I could be there.
It's going to be wild, man.
I wish I could be there, but I'll be there in spirit. I'll be watching at home. That's going to take up my Saturday night.
I'll be listening to the police scanner for sure.
Unfortunately, that Saturday is normally a day that I go hang out with friends. It won't be. This is a day that I sit by myself. I'm not watching college football with anybody. It's me and the couch and the TV. Maybe my dog. Maybe my dog. Who knows? She can be there. Molly's a real treat, and she's my good luck charm.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, oh, Molly, give me a kiss. Dylan Raiola is going to throw me a touchdown, right? He's going to throw it to me through the TV, right? Right now. Touchdown.
And it works.
Every time.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Every time.
Make it out.
Yeah, I guess we don't know about Dylan Raiola's, but it worked. Like, Molly, please have Heinrich Harburg rush this touchdown in from 70 yards away, please. And there it was.
Boom.
Last year. That's how it works.
It was all you. That was all you?
It was me
That's
from a distance.
awesome.
Yep. So Nebraska has a chance to start 7-0, and I still think that's a real possibility. You have Utep to open the year. You have to beat Colorado at home. I mean, you have to get the better of Colorado this time around. Plus, talk about a statement win there. An absolute statement win if you can beat Colorado at home. Northern Iowa, Illinois, 4 games at home to open the year. I mean, how much better can it get if you're a Nebraska fan? You go on the road against Purdue. Thank goodness you host Rutgers at home. And I say that because it's so hard to go out east at any point in time and play that Rutgers team, especially now in the state that they're built. Rutgers is going to be a very good team this year. And I think that it's going a little bit under the radar right now. Nebraska is going to have a hard time with Rutgers, and you have to win that game. You absolutely have to. And if you can win that game, poof, Kahm, that's 6 wins.
Right there.
6 wins to open the year.
Done.
I mean, the stress of having to play for a bowl game is now off the table. And you still have another 6 games ahead to figure out if you can beat the best of the best. And that doesn't even carry over to the next week when you face Indiana, a team you should absolutely beat on the road. This team could easily be 7-0, easily going in to Ohio State. I'm not saying you beat the number 2 team in the country. That Ohio State team is just unbelievably built right now. I remember when I was dogging on them a little bit because I was high on Oregon because of playing too much college football. And then I really started to go through the roster of Ohio State and see the additions that they made and thought, yeah, I forgot about that guy. Yeah, I forgot he went there too. Oh, man, that defense. Do they really still have that guy? Yeah, Ohio State does. Ohio State will win the Big Ten this year. That's, I think, an easy prediction for anybody to make. I don't think they win that game. So let's just say it's 7-1 at this point. Now you have to win. You have to win against UCLA. You have to. In order for my college football playoff prediction to be correct, you have to beat UCLA.
And that's of them making the 11th seed.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
the 11th, maybe the 12th. It's all about, and I still don't really understand the voting process. Like, I think we're just going to learn as we go. But
they're making it up as they go, I think, too.
Yeah, and they basically are, because you have to remember that one team, the highest ranked champion from the Mountain West, the AAC, the Sun Belt, the Mid-American Conference, or Conference USA will be making the college football playoff. Just one team, the highest ranked champ. I think that's going to be Boise State. That's a Mountain West champion. They could be the 11th. Nebraska could be 12th.
So it's just one team from those conferences, the highest ranked championship.
From that conference, from that pool of conferences.
Right. One team will make it for sure. One team.
Okay. Yes. They get a lock. They get an auto. Then it's like pool play, right? It's essentially at-large bids is what they're labeled as. And then you have 4 spots dedicated to the conference champions from each of the premier conferences, the Big 10, Big 12, right. SEC, and ACC, which ACC blunders already. How about that Florida State loss from last weekend against Georgia Tech? That was my team to win the ACC. Now I have no clue. I'm going to probably give it to Miami. Cam Ward looks very good. DJU did not look good in that game. Holy moly, did he look bad in that game. Cam Ward in Miami, you're going to take my spot now. Even though I bet Florida State to make it, guess what, Andrew? You're probably going to be wrong, and Mike Norvell's team won't be there, and it's going to be Miami. So we'll get into that just in a hot sec. But what I kind of wanted to get to is you have to beat UCLA in order for the Nebraska college football playoff prediction to be correct. And I know I'm going to get hammered for this, Cam. I know I am. Because why should I think Nebraska can just elevate straight to the college football playoff? I'll be overly optimistic this year, and I'll be the only one right. I love being the only one right. I was the only one right on Gunnar Gatula. I was the only one right on that guy. Everybody else was dogging on that kid, not me. I had him as my number 1 in my Super 6 just 2 years ago. You can ask Robbie. You can ask DB. DB was the first one to say, dude, you are going to be the only one on that. The only one, if that's right. Nobody else has it. You're going to be the only one.
And here you are.
Here I am. The last person talked about last month when I was at the PBC. Well, it was this month, but, just a couple weeks before. DB goes, dude, I just got done talking about how you were right about something else. What was that, Robbie? Was it an MLB thing? Was it a Husker thing? Like, remember when you pulled that Gatula thing? Like, you did that with something else. Like, MLB? Was it MLB? Do you remember that when we were standing at the table?
Yeah, it was right before we did Rogers Rulez live from there. Yeah.
DB's just talking about how I pulled something. Sometimes my predictions come true. Let's just say that. Sometimes.
If you say them loud enough and often enough, they'll remember it.
Let's hope this is a sometime.
Robbie will be like, oh, yeah.
Let's hope this is a sometime. And when it becomes a sometime, I'm going to chop this up and send it directly to Shane. I'm going to chop it up into bite-sized little pieces and send it over to Shane because he needs his meat cut in PB&J's cut in fourths. Bite-sized little pieces. Nebraska has to go 10-2 in order to make the college football playoff. They have to. They just have to go 10-2. And that means you lose to USC and you close the year out beating Wisconsin.
Is that realistic? At that point, is it realistic based on the rules of the playoff? If they go 10-2, are they gonna make it, or is there another team that can swoop it in there?
But again, it's all based on strength of schedule. So that's where it gets like a little bit dicey because I don't think Nebraska has
games take you out of it a little bit.
I mean, if Nebraska's starting the season 7-0, they don't have a hard schedule, right? If they go 10-2, their schedule is not that difficult. I think 8-4 is probably more realistic if we're thinking about like this sort of schedule block versus next year's schedule block. But I'm thinking on the highest of high ends, 10-2. That means Michigan will probably have to lose 3 games. Some of those other top teams will have to like fade off and be a 9-3 team instead of a 10-2 team. They may have to be an 11-1 team. And that may mean they have to beat USC. They have to beat the 23rd team to open up the year at that point in time on the road, might I add.
Yeah.
in Southern California. So I'm thinking, like I said, optimistically, and saying a 10-2 Nebraska team will make the college football playoff, and they'll be the 11 or the 12. They'll be the 11 or the 12. And then you can mix and match the rest of the way. I think Boise State gets in, they'll be the 11 or the 12. And then if we start at the top, I think it's pretty simple. I think, hit me with it, Cam. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Your number one?
My number one, Ohio State. I think Ohio State beats Oregon at the end of the year. So I'm going to say Ohio State. That doesn't mean Oregon's not getting in. Ohio State's the one. Georgia is the two.
Or just in general?
No, number one in general.
Overall. Okay.
Ohio State. I'm going to say 4 teams from the Big Ten make it.
Being Ohio State, Nebraska, Michigan, and who else?
No, Ohio State, Nebraska, Penn State, and Oregon.
Okay.
That's going to be the 4 teams from the Big Ten.
Yeah, because you're out on Michigan.
Right, I'm out on Michigan.
Yeah.
So Ohio State is the number 1 overall seed. Georgia will take the number 2. You just can't sleep on them dogs. They will probably beat Bama, right? You'd have to think. Maybe Texas. I'll go Texas. I'm locking Texas in. That Georgia will beat Texas to make it as the number 2 overall seed. I will then say Utah. Cam Rising.
Utah out of nowhere.
Well, Utah is going to be the Big 12 champ. Kyle Whittingham, excellent coach. And Cam Rising back, going to be the team representing the Big 12. And then I chose
over Oklahoma State.
Yes, over Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State's a good team. Good running back. Really good running back. You'll see his name off the draft boards next spring, very, very early. Ollie Gordon's a beast. But I'm going to stick with Utah. I like Cam Rising. I think it's a better team. Yeah. And then I'm going with Miami. I said Cam Ward. So I'm going to stick with that as the top 4 teams representing the college football playoff. They get the buys, right? So those are the teams that get the bye. Now you kind of get into the field that I don't really understand and still don't know if I understand. But how it works is it's a lot of strength of schedule and a bunch of other things that are subjective to us, but some randos vote for it. And the selection committee.
So that's when you get your selections and your at-large selections. So there's differences, right?
Well, Mike Riley's actually on the selection committee. So there are 6 former coaches and players in the group, 6 sitting ADs in 7 conferences, and 1 former sports writer, okay? Including 1 from each of the Power 4 leagues. That's the selection committee. And then how people are actually selected. And I'm just going to read verbatim of what I see on ESPN. The 5 highest ranked conference champions and the next 7 highest ranked teams will earn a spot in the 12-team bracket. So rank 1 to rank 12, right? When it comes down to selection day and Florida State gets screwed, right? Remember how that happened? When it comes down to the selection committee, the final rankings 1 to 12 is making. That's who makes it.
And that's of your top 25.
That's of the top 25.
Okay.
Top 12 teams. But Boise State or that one team in that extra pool of conferences, one of those teams will be in the top 12. Whether they're like ranked 17 when that actually happens, they'll end up being 12, right? Same sort of deal as we kind of fill out the rest of this.
Like your Tulane type of situation.
Right. I think Notre Dame is a heck of a team. I think Riley Leonard's a heck of a quarterback. I think Marcus Freeman's a heck of a coach. If they can survive Texas A&M at Texas A&M, by the time they get to USC, I don't think it'll be an issue. I think they'll have a spot locked up. Notre Dame will be up there as probably the 5 seed. And then you're going to get into the teams that lost in their conference championship games, the Oregons of the world, the Texases of the world, things like that. Now you're not going to see like, oh, Kansas, if they made it, or Oklahoma State, if they made it, or Florida State or UNC, right? Those, whoever comes out of the smaller of the Power 4s, that runner-up isn't making it. They are not making the college football playoff. So Florida State, if you lose to Miami, sorry.
Goners.
You're not in. And after what I saw last weekend, you're out. Texas is going to make it. I don't really know where these teams are going to be ranked. Oregon's going to make it. Like those two losers will make it. They could be interchanged. Those two teams will end up being there. Alabama will somehow be there. Even though Nick Saban isn't there, Alabama's somehow going to be
It's just a given at this point, right?
So, and don't get me wrong, I really like Kalen DeBoer. I also think Jalen Milroe can bounce even further after his very solid year. So they'll end up being in the mix. Penn State, I also said, will be a team that is in the mix. And then I said Boise State and Nebraska, okay? And now this last team, and this is going back to my sports bet, because everything goes back to a sports bet, right?
Mm.
The last team making it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, in this sports bet, Cam, I had Florida State. Did I mention that already? I had Florida State, Texas, Utah, Oregon, Notre Dame, Nebraska. Did I mention that I had that, or was that on Tuesday's episode? Do I need to remind people?
I think you
that
mentioned
was on Tuesday's.
I'm just wondering where, like, you don't have any room for Ole Miss in this thing?
So that was going to be my last team.
Was that what it was? Okay,
Ole Miss.
Gotcha.
So Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, an experienced offense. They only have 3 ranked teams on the schedule, a road game at LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia are home games. Even if they get a loss or two, they still probably have a spot.
So they're kind of in a similar boat to Nebraska, where they've got a couple tough teams, but most of it's pretty, you're going to win those ones, right?
And then I gave that spot, like I said, to Nebraska. So my 12-team playoff looks like this: Ohio State, Georgia, Utah, Miami. Sorry, sports bet. Notre Dame. I said either Oregon or Texas, interchangeably. Penn State, Ole Miss, Alabama's somehow going to make it. So Ole Miss, Alabama, whatever that looks like. So 2 SEC teams. Notice how I threw 4 SEC teams in here and 4 Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason for that. We're shifting toward a power 2. And then you have Boise State, Nebraska.
Yep.
Or Nebraska, Boise State. Guys, I know. I the more I say it, the more I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But if it makes you feel any better, I put money on it. And I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, there you go. Look, you see that receipt up there, Cam? What does that name say?
It says Nebraska at top. And Notre Dame, Oregon, Utah.
Yeah.
Following.
All the way down. How it's done. That is how it's done. And
well, I hope you cash out pretty big on that one.
Notice how it also says 443. It is not 443, but that's because I took the screenshot at 443 on the day I placed the bet. So don't think that this is just a random coincidence and Andrew is just saying Nebraska and he photoshopped something because I do have that skill. No, I actually put money on it. Not a lot of money, but I put money on it.
Enough to, get by, I'm sure.
Enough to make a big win. A big win. So there you have it. That's Nebraska's college football schedule. But now let's actually look at who Nebraska has on their roster, because I really think this is fun. And I got asked this question by our boy TK, a live show legend, when I was on the mornings on Hurrdat Sports Radio. He would always be in the comments, ready to go. He's always in our comments here on Rogers Rulez. I appreciate him. He texted me the other day, and I lost all my contacts, so I didn't know it was him at first. He texted me and said, 2 questions. What is your Bears record prediction? And 2, who is the best freshman on defense for Nebraska this year? So my Bears record prediction was 8-4. No, I said 9-8. 9-8, because Nebraska was 8-4. I got those 2 mixed up. Realistically, I said 9-8. A really good year for the Bears would be 11-6. If they somehow got to 11-6, that would be like Nebraska's 10-2 year. But the follow-up question, like I said, was who is the best freshman on defense for Nebraska this year? And I kind of took the get out of jail free card. First and foremost, because there's not a lot of freshmen on defense for Nebraska this year. But if you go on the list, you have 3 guys that you can really choose from. 4. You have Vincent Jackson, redshirt freshman. You have Vincent Shavers Jr. You have Sanders, and you have Stewart. Sanders, true freshman, right? Yeah, true freshman out of Miami. So those are the Miami boys. You have Shavers and Sanders, and you have another redshirt freshman in Ramirez Stewart. Now, that is just based on what the depth chart looks like. I'm sure I could have said anybody, right? I'm sure I could have said Caleb Benning, for example, freshman. But I'm going off the active depth chart, and I landed on Vincent Shavers. Vincent Shavers, one of the top players in the Miami area before he joined Nebraska. More than 170 tackles in his prep career. He had more than 30 tackles for loss and 20 sacks. 20 sacks. 46 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 7 sacks as a senior. Vincent Shavers is an absolute beast. He was a two-way player. He played linebacker. He played running back. At Nebraska, he's playing linebacker. But this is a guy that could really do a couple of things here. One, learn from John Bullock, the guy right in front of him on the depth chart, a senior on this Nebraska team. He could learn a lot from him, but he also could be an impact player playing as a true freshman. And you would not play as a true freshman if Matt Rule didn't believe that you were going to get the playing time, right? To get that playing time. So Vincent Shavers is that guy for me. I'd be curious to know if anybody else has a different answer. Like I said, I took more of a cop-out approach because I had the luxury of looking at the depth chart before answering that question. When that question was asked to me, it was not out yet, but Vincent Shavers would have been in my top select few just because he's just a difference guy. He's just an absolute difference maker. But I would have probably said Caleb Benning at the time just because a couple of different reasons. One, the personal connection, and 2, I love his work ethic. I always have. So that's where I would land there. But let's look at the roster from offense to defense, and then I'll get you guys out of here on a short episode because just like you, I'm sure you are itching to get to college football and you want to stop hearing me talk. So the shorter I make this, the quicker we get to college football. That's how that works, right?
I think that's how time works, yeah.
I think that is. So offensively, Turner Corker.
Yeah?
Did you hear what I just said there?
Turner Corker.
Turner Corker. Corcoran.
Corcoran.
Turner Corcoran is left tackle. And Justin Evans Jenkins is the left guard. Ben Scott playing center. Micah Mazuka at right guard. And Bryce Benhart at right tackle. Tight ends, you have Thomas Fidone, you have Nate Borkature, and you have Luke Lindenmeyer. In the slot, Janarian Bonner. IGC, Carter Nelson is going to play some slot. Remember Matt Rule saying that in the middle of the summer. He liked the versatility option of Carter Nelson, not just being a tight end, but more of a slot guy. Out wide, Jamal Banks, Jalen Lloyd, Malachi Coleman, Isaiah Nair. You have Ja'Cory Barney, Alex Bullock. Those are your 6 wide receivers. I think you're going to see a lot of Jalen Lloyd again this year. Just an absolute speedster, a freak of an athlete. Jalen Lloyd was super successful last season in the way that he could stretch the field. He's just somebody that would, you send him deep, he'll catch it. He's kind of like Tyreek Hill, right? In a way, you just throw him down the field, he'll be good. At quarterback, Dylan Raiola. Go ahead.
I said sometimes it'd be like that, though.
Yeah, sometimes. At quarterback.
There goes Tyreek.
At quarterback, Dylan Raiola, Heinrich Harburg, then Danny Kalin, and running backs. You know, this is interesting.
There's a lot of oars on that one.
There is a lot of oars.
Yeah.
And Ramir Johnson is listed first. And I don't know if that comes as a surprise to a lot of people or not, but it absolutely, like, this is the room that you could talk about going a ton of different ways. And for him to be listed first is interesting. Ramir, Emmett Johnson, Gabe Ervin Jr. third. Gabe Ervin started the year last year as that number 1 guy. And I'm a big Gabe Ervin fan. He's just dealt with some injuries. And then Dante Dowdell, who has found himself at the bottom for now. We could see if that comes as a change. But Emmett Johnson, who had a very good year as a freshman, very good year, deservingly second on this list, maybe even more deservingly could be first, but that is, of course, Ramir's spot right now because he is healthy. That is your offensive depth chart. Over on defense, the guy that looks bigger than any human being imaginable, Ty Robinson. I mean, he looks like he ate everybody on the team. That dude is huge. Imagine getting pancaked by Ty Robinson. I don't want to. Dude's scary. He's a big man among other bigger men. And I think I may have just quoted Ravi Lula there.
A giant among giants.
Nash Hutmacher comes next at nose tackle. You have your defensive ends in Jamari Butler, Kahm Lenhart. You have linebackers, John Bullock and I always forget how to pronounce your last name. Gaber. Mackay. I'm guessing there. I'm sorry. He is pairing on the other side of that linebacker spot. At the jack spot, you have MJ Sherman and Prince Will Uman-Mielen, one of my favorite players on this Nebraska defense. I love the way Prince Will can get to the quarterback. Quarterbacks, Tommy Hill. You have Sanders right behind him. On the other side, you have Buford Jr., you have Wright, and you have Bly Hill. And I like Bly Hill a lot. I think Bly Hill offers a lot of the same skill sets, a lot of the same stretch marks as maybe a guy like Sauce Gardner did in college. At the safety spot, Malcolm Hartzog Jr., Singleton, Deshaun Singleton, also a guy that kind of like came up out of nowhere last year, even though I'll give credit where credit's due. DB was all over Deshaun Singleton. And then your rover is Isaac Gifford. I mean, is anybody surprised? Absolutely not. And then you can look at your single-digit numbers. And just to confirm those, I will go to Nebraska's roster. And they are Nash Hutmacher wearing number 0, Jamari Butler 1, Gifford 2, Buford Jr. 3, Jamal Banks 4, John Bullock 5, Tommy Hill 6, Malcolm Hartzog 7, Deshaun Singleton 8, Ty Robinson 9. What is interesting about that, Cam? Based on everything I just said when I read off the depth charts, what is interesting about those 10 guys that I just named? There's only one guy from offense.
Oh.
9 guys repping single-digit numbers come on the defensive side of the ball.
Really?
So a very interesting anecdote, if you will. But are we really shocked that the black shirts kind of hold those single-digit numbers? Probably not so much. And then to close things out, we got to talk about special teams because this is, in a lot of ways, the team – the portion of the team that needs to have the best year. They need to win most improved award, essentially. Tristan Alvano is listed as the starting place kicker. Now, that could switch hands quickly to John Hall. Could really switch quickly if Tristan doesn't stay accurate. I think after having the yips at least a little bit, getting rid of those 1 year under his belt, it will pay off for him. But also we have to remember that it's very difficult to kick in Nebraska conditions. Anybody would tell you that played here. Alex Henry would tell you that. Anyone would tell you that it's difficult to kick at Nebraska. Any other kicker that came here to Nebraska would tell you that, man, 40-mile-per-hour winds going one direction, not fun to kick into. But Tristan will need to be more accurate this season, and he knows that. At punter, you have Brian Buschini. Hopefully he can have some stronger punts this season. Kickoffs, they're giving the kickoffs to John Hall. You have your long snapper and Camden with Tucky. Your kick returners are Ramir Johnson and Ja'Cory Barney Jr. And your punt returners, as I'm losing all speaking ability, as I'm saying a bunch of names, IGC and Ja'Cory Barney Jr. That is how this team rounds out. If I butchered some names, sorry for that. Maybe have more names like John Smith for me, and then it would be a lot easier. But here we are. So Nebraska is shaped up to go 10-2 this year, according to my calculations. Let's just wait and see.
We'll see.
This Saturday against Utep, if they can get started off on the right foot. Again, an amazing college football slate to kind of just get excited about. Some ranked matchups, but also just opening day, if you will, for a lot of your teams. And also to add in, College Game Day is going to be back. You get the panel, Kirk Herbstreit, Pat McAfee. You get Reese Davis, right?
Is that the Colorado game?
No.
Do we know when that's coming to town?
I do not know. A College Game Day schedule. I don't know if I've seen it.
Maybe they haven't released it yet, but you figure they would by now, right? Just a couple days
Week 1 is Notre Dame at Texas A&M, a game that we talked about just today on the show.
Yep.
But I am not seeing the next College Game Day. That'd be a good one to come to.
That would be a great one.
It's a night game, right? You got to come to those night games if it is college. You don't have to, but it helps sometimes. And especially that game. Oh, baby. That would be a good one. That would be a goodie. So there you have it. College football is this weekend, and I hope you are just as excited as I am. See that right there? That's Memorial Stadium. That's where you should be on Saturday, and every Saturday. Nebraska is playing at home. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Rogers Rules. For Cam Broham, I'm Andrew Rogers. You will talk to us again next week.